Welcome to the Apple PowerBook 520-540 Service Training Video Course. The PowerBook 520-540 series of computers introduce several components and technologies that are new to Apple PowerBooks. This part of the tape locates the PowerBook 520-540 components and gives a brief description of those new components. The PowerBook 520-540 computers use a new audio-visual display. The standard-size display bezel includes all critical electronics and has a single interface to the CPU. This uniform design makes upgrades and new displays easier to offer. The display bezel includes built-in stereo speakers and a microphone. Each is tuned to support full duplex telephony. The PowerBook 520-540 offer full-size 640 by 480 active matrix and dual-scan advanced passive matrix grayscale displays and color displays that show 256 colors at 85 dpi. In addition, you may choose to run the color display at 640 by 400 with thousands of colors via an option in the monitor's control panel. Other displays may be offered in future models of the PowerBook 520-540. The PowerBook 520-540 uses a trackpad instead of a trackball. The trackpad is a high-resolution, 400 dpi, intuitive input device that is more reliable than a trackball due to its solid-state design. It is also thinner, lighter, less expensive, and requires less power to operate than a trackball. To move the pointer, simply slide your finger across the trackpad until the pointer is in the desired position. Then click this actuator as you would when using a trackball. The trackpad responds to the capacitance of your finger, so you don't have to apply any pressure. Use the trackpad control panel to adjust the trackpad's responsiveness to your touch. Next to the trackpad actuator is the sleep switch. When the display is closed, the PowerBook is automatically placed in sleep mode. When in sleep mode, this green LED lights up, allowing you to determine if the PowerBook is in sleep mode or powered off without opening the display. The PowerBook 520-540 use one or two intelligent nickel metal hydride battery packs. One is located in the right side battery compartment, and the other is located in the left side battery compartment. These battery compartments are sometimes referred to as battery bays. The left side battery compartment contains a PDS connector that may be used to add optional PCM CIA cards, such as communications modules or wireless cellular. The smart processors within each battery pack ensure that customers receive the maximum runtime possible per pack. In addition, the PowerBook 520-540 includes dual built-in battery charging. New power management features and controls are displayed on the desktop in the control strip. The control strip helps the user achieve optimum runtime between battery charging by giving immediate access to power management controls. The PowerBook 520-540 also include a full keyboard with function keys and a power-on key. Some external components are found on other families of PowerBook computers. These components include a contrast control, on some models, a brightener control, and elevation feet to raise and lower the back of the computer. The PowerBook 520-540 include these connectors and ports behind the rear door. Power adapter, serial, sound in, sound out, Apple desktop bus, Ethernet, video out, which supports Apple VGA and SVGA monitors, SCSI, and optional modem. The computer case set is divided into these parts: the top case, bottom case, right side panel, center base cover, display access cover, and left side panel. Some parts are now removed to allow identification of the internal components. Located on the back of the display bezel are the stereo speakers, the brightener and contrast control buttons, and the microphone. Located on the display housing is the inverter board. The inverter board alternates low voltage DC to high voltage AC and controls display bulb voltages and currents. This is the interconnect board, which is the interface between the logic board or motherboard and the display, inverter board, microphone, and speakers. The interconnect to logic board cable connects the interconnect board to the logic or motherboard. The display housing also contains the LCD panel and the EMI shield, which is located behind the LCD panel. The display housing is removed before continuing. This is the daughter board EMI shield and heatsink. Here is the RAM card, which is connected to the daughter board. RAM can be expanded up to 36 megabytes with the installation of a third-party RAM card. This is the daughter board. It contains 4 megabytes of DRAM, 2 megabytes of ROM, and the microprocessor. Here is the RAM card connector. This is the modem card, which is connected to the motherboard. The PowerBook 52540 support fax data voice modems with Apple Open Collaboration Environment compliant fax and speakerphone applications. PowerBook 52540 internal modems require a separate DAA PCB, which is located here on the motherboard. The DAA ensures proper timing of data transmission over telephone equipment. A different modem and DAA is required for international use of the PowerBook 52540. This is the hard drive. And this is the floppy drive. This is the motherboard. It contains the external connectors, the internal connectors for the daughter board, floppy drive, keyboard connectors, and hard drive. It also contains the PDS connector, which is accessed through the left battery bay, the modem connector, and the fuse. The motherboard also contains these chips: the power manager, sound, I/O, VRAM, FPD, SCSI, Ethernet, and video. This is the backup battery, located under this cover on the back of the top case next to the trackpad. Last, the PowerBook 520-540 use an external 40-watt AC adapter. This AC adapter works only with the PowerBook 520-540 and is not backward compatible. This concludes Part 1. Please stop the tape. Part 2 of this tape gives you an opportunity to practice identifying selected PowerBook 520-540 components. When a component is presented, identify it. In a few seconds, the name of the component will be stated. Then compare your answer to the one given. Here's the first component. This is the internal modem connector. This is the trackpad. This is the daughter board. These are the right and left side battery bays. This is the RAM card connector. This is the motherboard. This is the PDS connector, which is accessible through the left battery bay. This is the microphone. This is the power on key. This is the backup battery. This is the inverter PCB. This is the interconnect PCB. This is the floppy drive connector. This is the modem DAA PCB. These are the keyboard connectors. If you incorrectly identified any of these components, take a few minutes to review this part of the tape before continuing. This concludes Part 2. Please stop the tape. This part of the tape demonstrates how to take apart and reassemble the PowerBook 520-540 series computers. When taking apart and reassembling the computer, be sure to follow these precautions. Use an ESD-safe workstation and wear an ESD wrist strap. The PowerBook 520-540 computers contain CMOS devices that are very susceptible to ESD damage. Review the ESD precautions in the Safety Information section under the Do menu on the Service Source CD before beginning take-apart. And carefully follow the take-apart procedures on Service Source as you remove and replace each component. Before starting take-apart, disconnect the power adapter. Important, before removing the main battery, which is the next step, use the Macintosh shutdown command. Otherwise, all RAM contents will be lost. Remove the main batteries. Slide the release button toward you and pull out the right main battery. Repeat the procedure for the left main battery or optional card if one is installed. Remove the keyboard. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the middle two bottom housing screws. Open the top cover. Then, using a jeweler's screwdriver, pry up the keyboard slightly and raise it up. Release the locking tabs on the two keyboard cable connectors and disconnect the cables from the motherboard. Then lift off the keyboard. Remove the hard drive. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the hard drive mounting screw. Using a small flat blade screwdriver, pry up the front of the hard drive and slide it forward and lift the drive out of the unit. Then, using a jeweler's screwdriver, disconnect the hard drive cable. Note, if you are replacing the hard drive, remove these 4 bracket screws, the bracket, and the insulator. Remove the clutch covers. Using a flat blade screwdriver and your fingers, press in on both sides of the wide end of the right clutch cover and release the 2 front latches. Rotate the clutch cover up, release the 3rd latch and remove the clutch cover. Then repeat this procedure for the left clutch cover. Remove the display access cover and the microphone assembly. Using a small flat blade screwdriver, pry up the display access cover at the 3 slots on the front of the cover. Then remove the display access cover. Disconnect the microphone cable from the interconnect PCB. Then, using a small flat blade screwdriver, pry up and remove the microphone assembly. Remove and take apart the display assembly. Support the display with a soft object such as a cardboard box. Disconnect the interconnect to logic board cable. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the right display mounting screw. Remove the left mounting screw. Then remove the display assembly, sliding it out of the cable. Disconnect the speaker cable from the interconnect board. Remove the bottom two mounting screws. Pry off the two rubber bumpers. Remove the top two mounting screws. Then pry up and remove the display bezel. Now remove the four mounting screws, securing the display LCD panel to the display housing. Disconnect the backlight cable from the inverter board. Disconnect the interconnect to display cable from the interconnect board. Then lift the LCD panel from the rear housing. Note, be sure to remove the cable from the display before returning it for repair. With the LCD panel removed, you now have access to the inverter and interconnect boards, inverter cable, and EMI shield. Remove the center base cover. Open the rear door and using a T8 Torx driver, remove the two rear panel screws. Lift up the center base cover and carefully release the two tiny latches. Caution, the latches are very fragile and can easily break. Then slide the cover toward the right side of the computer a ½ inch and remove the center base cover. Remove the floppy drive. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the two floppy drive screws. Lift up the cable end of the floppy drive. Slide the drive about 1/2 inch to the left and lift the front of the drive up and out of the unit. Caution! Before disconnecting the floppy drive cable from the motherboard, note the cable folds and the correct orientation of the cable connection. Because the cable connector is not keyed, the floppy drive cable could be reinserted upside down. Disconnect the floppy drive cable from the motherboard. Then remove the drive. Remove the daughter board EMI shield and heatsink. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the 3 mounting screws from the EMI shield. Then lift up and remove the daughter board EMI shield and heatsink. Remove the RAM expansion card, daughter board, and optional modem card. Slide the plastic retainer backward and remove it from the computer. Using the IC removal tool, position the tool near the connector and carefully lift up and remove the RAM card. Again, using the IC removal tool, position the tool near the connector and carefully lift up on the daughter board and slide it forward. Position the IC removal tool near the connector and lift up and remove the optional modem card. Remove the top case. Rotate the feet to the up position. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the screw located under the right foot. Then remove the screw under the left foot. Remove the 4 screws along the front edge of the bottom case. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the remaining screw on the inside top edge of the case. Caution: the top case is connected to the motherboard by the trackpad cable. In the next step, do not lift the top case too far off the unit or you may damage the cable. Carefully lift the top case partially up off the unit and carefully unthread the interconnect to logic board cable. Disconnect the trackpad cable from the motherboard. Then remove the top case. With the top case removed, you now have access to the fuse. Remove the interconnect to logic board cable. Disconnect the interconnect to logic board cable from the motherboard and remove the cable. Remove the side panels. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the right side panel mounting screw. Then lift the back of the right panel and slide it backward and out. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the 3 left side panel mounting screws. Then, grasping the corner, slide the panel away from the computer. Remove the CPU stiffener. Place the feet in the up position. And lift the CPU stiffener straight off the unit. Remove the motherboard. Remove the screw and standoff securing the front of the board to the bottom case. Remove the screw securing the DAA PCB to the bottom case. And remove the DAA PCB and the DAA connector frame. Lift up the motherboard slightly to clear the positioning pegs. Slide the board 1/4 inch toward the front of the unit. Caution: in the next step, make sure the sound in and sound out ports clear the openings in the rear panel of the bottom case. Then lift the motherboard off the bottom case. Remove the trackpad assembly. Disconnect the backup battery cable. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the 2 front mounting screws. Disconnect the trackpad cable assembly and remove it from the unit. Using a T8 Torx driver, remove the remaining 2 mounting screws. Pry up and remove the trackpad actuator assembly. Then push in from underneath and remove the trackpad logic board. This completes take-apart. Please stop the tape. Replace the trackpad assembly. Begin reassembly by positioning the trackpad logic board in the top case. Position the trackpad actuator cover on the top case. Using a T8 Torx driver, replace the 2 mounting screws. Position the trackpad frame tabs inside the slots. And replace the 2 mounting screws using a T8 Torx driver. Connect the trackpad cable to the trackpad logic board. Then connect the backup battery cable. Note: make sure the cable routes on top of the trackpad assembly. Replace the motherboard. Carefully align the sound in and sound out ports in the rear panel of the bottom case. Position the motherboard in the bottom case, aligning the 2 positioning pegs. Replace the screw and standoff, securing the front of the board. Position the DAA connector frame and the DAA PCB on the motherboard. Then replace the screw, securing the DAA PCB to the bottom case. Replace the CPU stiffener. With the feet up, position and secure the CPU stiffener in the bottom case. Then, place the feet in the down position. Warning: make sure both EMI clips fold on top of the clutch pegs. If the right clip accidentally folds backward and touches the pins for the power connector, the contact could short out the motherboard. Replace the optional modem card, daughter board, and RAM expansion card. While pressing on the metal card holder, position and connect the optional modem card to the motherboard. Carefully position the daughter board on the motherboard and press down on the front edge of the board to secure the connector. Then position the RAM expansion card on the daughter board and carefully press down on the edge of the card directly above the connector. Replace the plastic retainer. Caution: don't apply excessive pressure to any of the cards or you may permanently damage them. Replace the daughter board EMI shield and heatsink. Position the EMI shield over the daughter board. Note: make sure all the tabs on the sides of the EMI shield fit inside the daughter board guide. Then, using a T8 Torx driver, replace the 3 mounting screws. Replace the side panels. Slide the right side panel into position. Using a T8 Torx driver, replace the right side panel mounting screw. Slide the left side panel into position. Then, using a T8 Torx driver, replace the 3 left side panel mounting screws. Replace the interconnect to logic board cable. Connect the interconnect to logic board cable to the motherboard. Replace the top case. Position the top case near the front of the bottom case and connect the trackpad cable to the motherboard. Carefully thread the interconnect to logic board cable through the opening for the right clutch in front of the EMI clip as you position the top case onto the bottom case. Using a T8 Torx driver, replace the screw on the inside top edge of the case. Using a T8 Torx driver, replace the 4 screws along the front edge of the bottom case. Using a T8 Torx driver, replace the screw under the left foot. Then replace the screw under the right foot. Replace the floppy drive. Hold the floppy drive near its location in the computer. Caution! Before connecting the floppy drive cable, position the cable folds in the correct orientation to the cable connector, and check that the folds are above the drive. Because the cable connector is not keyed, the floppy drive cable can be reinserted upside down. Connect the floppy drive cable to the motherboard. Position and then slide the drive to the right, securing the tabs on the drive frame in the CPU stiffener. Then, using a T8 Torx driver, replace the two floppy drive screws. Replace the center base cover. Position the center base cover, slide it toward the left side of the computer a ½ inch, and secure the two latches. Then, using a T8 Torx driver, replace the two rear panel screws. Reassemble and replace the display assembly. Position the LCD panel in the display housing. Connect the interconnect to display cable to the interconnect board. Connect the backlight cable to the inverter board. Now replace the 4 mounting screws that secure the LCD panel to the display housing. The edge of the display bezel has several latches and pins. First, align the top of the bezel and the lower corners. Then slightly bow out the bottom center of the bezel, press down, and secure the latches. Replace the 2 top mounting screws. Replace the 2 rubber bumpers. Replace the 2 bottom mounting screws. Then connect the speaker cable to the interconnect board. Now position the display assembly on the right and left clutch pegs, supporting the display with a soft object such as a box. Using a T8 Torx driver, replace the right display mounting screw. Replace the left display mounting screw. Then connect the interconnect to logic board cable. Caution! Be sure the cable is in front of the right clutch and is in the same orientation as when it was removed. The connector is not keyed and can be reinserted upside down. Replace the display access cover and the microphone assembly. Press the microphone assembly down into the microphone holder. Connect the microphone cable to the interconnect board. Then position the display access cover and secure the 3 latches. Replace the clutch covers. Position the latch located on the end of the clutch cover under the top case. Now carefully push down on the clutch cover to secure the remaining 2 latches. Note, be careful not to pinch or rip the display cable when replacing the right clutch cover. Then repeat this procedure for the left clutch cover. Replace the hard drive. Hold the hard drive near its location in the computer and connect the hard drive cable. Slide the drive in and down. Make sure the tabs on the end of the hard drive bracket are positioned in the CPU stiffener. Then, using a T8 Torx driver, replace the hard drive mounting screw. Replace the keyboard. Stand the keyboard on the top case. Insert the 2 ribbon cables into the locking tabs on the 2 keyboard cable connectors. Then press down on the locking tabs, securing the cables. Slide the keyboard down and forward. Position it in the computer under the center base cover. Then, using a T8 Torx driver, replace the middle 2 bottom housing screws. Replace the main batteries. Slide in and secure the right main battery. Last, slide in and secure the left main battery or optional card if one is installed. This concludes Part 3, Take Apart and Reassembly, and the tape. Please stop and rewind the tape.